Hello and welcome to TBR Spotlight from the Big Reviewski. Now, I know this is YouTube and you're looking for our beautiful faces, but we're not here. You can just sit back, relax, and listen to this because it's an audio-only review of the brand new episode of Loki on Disney+. This is episode 3, Lamentis. Hello and welcome to TBR Spotlight from the Big Reviewski, your companion podcast to Loki on Disney+. Today we're obsessing over episode 3, Lamentis. My name's Eoghan and there's Rory. At least it looks like Rory. Does it sound like Rory?
Am I a robot Rory? Secretly a robot Rory?
It's not even robot Rory.
Am I Lady Rory?
It's Lady Rory, it's Variant Rory, you might just be a figment of my imagination or some kind of illusion that you've created.
I do get that a lot.
That guy's not actually there. Well, hello, Rory. If that even is your real name, how are you?
I'm good, Owen. I'm good. I was anticipating this episode to be like a breather episode. You know, like a kind of a narrative dump episode, and it was exactly that. It was a lot of long conversations between. I knew the second he went to that portal, I was like, these are just going to be talking a lot for this episode, aren't they? And the one thing that, like, I know we're going to get to it eventually, but I'm going to get to it right now. Don't name your planet Lamentis if you don't want it to end badly. That would be my advice. Don't name a thing, like, don't name your kid Sinestro and then be surprised when he's evil. Don't name your planet Lamentis and then expect a happy ending.
I did have that written down because I was like, whenever I was, what's the name of this episode, Lamentis? And then obviously when that reveal does come, I was like, who was in charge of the planning permission here?
Yeah.
Who's responsible for this catastrophe? But yeah, as you said, they really did dump the narrative all over this episode, which was shorter than the previous two as well in the series.
Yeah, well, it is essentially almost a two-hander for
yes.
the most part. We do see that Sylvie, as we now know her, or as she's self-proclaiming to be, pops through the thing into the TVA, immediately realizes her powers don't work there, kicks the head off anyone who crosses her path. Loki follows through, snatches the knives from the locker, follows her. They have a little scrap. Gugu and Batha rocks up with her time stick, and I was like, oh, you guys are in trouble.
I was so excited.
And then they escape immediately. Right off the bat, you do notice a lack of Mobius, don't you? You do. So there's a gaping hole in the episode. It's like, where's Owen Wilson? Where's that unique charm? So yeah, like him not being in this episode is evidence of how brilliant he is in the show.
Yeah, and how well himself and Tom Hiddleston have been working together so far in the first two episodes. Just before we get into our big proper deep dive and breakdown, there were three quick things I wanted to mention, if that's okay with you. And I don't want to put unnecessary pressure on you, but I got a text from a friend during the week who said that their absolute favourite thing of the first two episodes so far, listening back, is just he just loves Rory's big swing. And he's like, I need more of hashtag Rory's big swing. So I'm hoping maybe there are some big swings, if even just one big massive swing today potentially.
Yeah, like it's we'll get to them eventually. Like I think there are at least two big talking points in this episode, one of which is a big swing even I didn't see coming.
Okay.
So that's fun. That will be fun to talk about, and maybe like as we tease it apart, a secondary big swing of my own will arrive. But no, there's nothing is immediately coming to mind. I do have I've got notes on this one, but
happy days.
None of them are necessarily big swings of mine. They're just stuff that has arrived in the show on its own. So, but thank you to whoever your friend is. Was it me? Did I text you?
It wasn't you. No, surprise, surprise. I do have another friend, and it was him. It was Mickey. So
thank you, Mickey.
Mickey there. So the second point I wanted to make, and we've mentioned it already. You said Sylvie, who Sophia Di Martino is self-proclaiming her character to be in this. She hates when she gets called Loki by Loki. Who interestingly, she refers to Tom Hiddleston's Loki as the variant as well, which is a nice twisty turnaround. But this was a theory that kind of dropped during the week. And it wasn't even a theory. It was like, oh, has somebody made a mistake? Yeah, it felt like an accident, which appears to have been updated. And it was not even obviously with any Marvel property, everybody is, crawling all over the credits to see if there are any clues there. And there often are with the films, but also with the shows that have already happened, and also with Loki as well. But this wasn't even in the normal, inverted commas, Marvel credits. No. This was in the foreign language dubbing credits for the voice actors from around the world. And it was essentially, instead of being called the variant in one of the language dubs, it said the name Sylvie. Yeah. And then people were like, oh my God, Sylvie. And then for the uninitiated like me, I was like, who the heck is Sylvie? So who was Sylvie?
Well, Sylvie goes by another name in the MCU, a character called Enchantress, who it does feel like for this, they've kind of mushed Enchantress and Lady Loki together into one character, because across this episode, she doesn't seem to... She gets annoyed being called Loki, but it does seem like she was Loki, but doesn't want to be Loki anymore. So I don't think she isn't Loki, but she just doesn't like being called that anymore. We don't know why yet, I don't think. And she seems to have had a completely different life. Like when they talk about their mothers, we get an insight into her life and stuff, and their powers are different as well. Mm-hmm. So if you look up like Wikipedia, I guess Enchantress and Marvel, you'll get an insight into that particular character, and she does have strong ties to the comic book version of Loki, but it doesn't look like that's the route they're taking there, because that's a very different path entirely. And it's not something that we've ever seen from the movie version of Loki so far. So I think it's just going to be like an amalgamation.
And the third and final thing from the past week gone by was Fiona, who edits a lot of the videos that we work on as well, and she's a massive Marvel fan, and she's watching Loki as well. She actually sent us on another clip of another theory where people were speculating that the entirety of Loki and the TVA actually takes place within the quantum realm, because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, there was a shot of a city off in the distance in the quantum realm, and people are thinking, do you know what? Time moves differently in the quantum realm. Time moves differently here, according to Owen Wilson's Mobius as well. So could that potentially be a plausible theory, do you reckon, that we're in the quantum realm?
Yeah, like there's also the look forward, because we know Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, Quantum Mania, is apparently going to be sell a lot in the quantum realm. And the baddie who we'd mentioned previously on this podcast for that is Kang the Conqueror, who, again, if you're naming your kids, just don't be surprised by the outcome.
Oh, his parents just wanted him to achieve something.
Yeah, maybe. Just wanted to really conquer that soup and sandwich. Good for you, Kang. Exactly. You did it. So he's going to be the big bad in that. And if you look at the comic book, we haven't seen him yet in the MCU, but if you look at the comic book versions of him, like how he's drawn, he looks a lot like one of the three, I keep trying to call them Time Lords, but that's not right. One of the three time lizards. Timekeepers.
Space lizards, that's it, yeah.
He looks a lot like one of them. So there is, and we'd previously mentioned that Gugu Mbatha-Raw's character, Renslayer, has a history with him as well. So it's all kind of tying together. How much of that they'll do in season 1 of Loki remains to be seen, but it is it's a strong theory.
Okay, enough of all that waffle then. Now we're straight into the episode. Oh, I was mainly referring to myself there. You're waffle free, don't worry. So previously, in episode 2 of Loki, basically everything went to shit because somebody just bombed the sacred timeline, and everybody's like freaking out essentially. Loki follows Lady Loki / Sylvie through this portal, because at that time we're not sure who she is. But then this opening scene that we get at the start of this episode, we get Sophia DiMartino and Sasha Lane, who plays C20,
Yes.
sitting like two girly best friends having cocktails. And I was like, this is lovely. This is nice. And then obviously the naive fool in me, I was like, oh my God, is this a flashback? Is this one of the reasons why, were they best friends before all of this? What's going on here? And then it's all normal. It's fun. They're having a good time. And then suddenly everything just starts to take a sinister twist, and the whole scene just goes boom and changes again into like another club. And I was like, hey, we're back in a club again. This is all normal. And I fell for it again. But what did you think of this Inception style opening where they're like, I need to get this information out of your head?
Yeah, like I knew immediately something was up when Sasha Lane was smiling, because we've only exclusively seen her be very, very angry in the show so far. So yeah, I knew there was something whack. And also the opening song is a song called Demons by, I think her name is Hayley Kikiro. And the chorus is I've got demons in my head. So
okay. Nice and on the nail there.
Yeah, it's like a real like upbeat pop song until you actually listen to the lyrics, and it's about like depression and anxiety and stuff, and you're like, oh, and also literal demons are in your head right now because she's incepting you. But yeah, no, it was interestingly done, and it's explained better in hindsight when Lady Loki or Sylvie kind of explains it later on in the episode, for a big revelation. But we'll get to that later.
Yes.
To that later. But right at that time, I was like, okay, so she's just kind of popping into people's minds and stealing information. But then I was like, how does she know where the lift? Like, there are lifts. She was like, where do I get the golden elevator? I was like, how do you know there's a golden elevator? How do you know there is a lift to take?
Well, maybe that was something that C20 had revealed just in a previous. Maybe they were on that. That was one of their previous cocktails, or maybe they were doing shots just before that. Who knows?
Who knows?
You know, and she spilled some of that info. So that's actually a wee overlap, because that happens before the end of last week's episode. Because then all the events in the Roxcart Big Mall takes place, and then we're into this brand new episode, as you mentioned. This is when Sylvie breaks into the TVA, discovers. And again, that's a surprise to her that her powers don't work, and she's just going to have to go. Like, it's really handy that she knows how to absolutely beat the crap out of lads as well. Like, she's a really good fighter, so that does come in help. And she seems to, again, revel in just killing people around her as well. There's a moment when she has one of those time baton sticks, one of the weapons, and she gets the guys, and she essentially does like a mic drop, and she's like, "Yeah, that's you sorted." And then all the time we're getting this. The TVA with their very kind of bureaucratic offices and files and systems, and you get this PA announcement. It's just like, protect the timeline, constantly just like running in the back. But I did love that Loki, having had his daggers, his beloved daggers confiscated, he was like, there's nobody here to stop me this time, and he just goes to get them. So what do you think about this? Because this is the first time they're confronting each other since their Zodiac serial killer style conversation in the previous episode. This is like a bit more, they're actually testing each other's action capabilities here as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like, at the start of it, I was like, all right, this is interesting enough, I guess. And then, like I said, like Renslayer shows up and they're all kind of worried where they can go, and then they pop through the portal and they land on Lamentis. And from that point on, I was like, this feels like a Doctor Who episode.
Right, okay.
I don't know, the vibe completely changed. I don't know. Maybe it's because, you know, if you hang out with someone and they're too much like you that you actually don't enjoy their company.
Yes.
I think because the two of them were so similar, and they were they just seemed to be holding knives to each other's throat for like the entire episode, and constantly threatening to kill each other, and constantly like, I don't know if I could trust you. Well, I don't know if I could trust you. At the end, I was like I don't know if I actually enjoyed seeing the two of them together, because they were so similar, and because the constant threat of backstabbery was just always looming, that I didn't really have anywhere to go. Does that make sense?
It really does, because there's a different kind of feeling when you're watching this show where when it was WandaVision, you're kind of looking and going, oh, I wonder there's definitely certain elements of illusion or something has been created here. And you're questioning things, but you're not questioning absolutely everything because you know that some stuff is grounded in reality. Similarly with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know that that's even more grounded in reality with I'm trying to think, was there even, I mean, the super soldiers, but they're not necessarily magic. But in this one, I think there's just literally every single frame that's on screen, every single moment, every scene, every conversation. I'm like, I don't know if this is happening. I don't know if this is real. I mean, I'm enjoying this part, but I don't know if this is really happening. So I know what you mean. Plus, because they are so similar in their characteristics, that they're both brilliant at, like, I was thinking about it, like on Lamentis, what they basically have to keep avoiding is like giant meteorites crashing from the sky, and amazing one-liners from each other as well, where they just, like, you know, he saves her life and she's like, I didn't need you to save me. He's like, you're so weird, you know, just as they're running along and stuff as well. And there's funny moments like that, but I do know what you mean, that as for the runtime of the episode, it's like, okay, we get it. That's the way their characters are. But I suppose if that's the way they are, that's the way they're going to behave until they can figure out whether they can trust each other at all. What we do get when they do land on Lamentis, the amazingly named Lamentis, a slightly different formatting of the name. I don't know if it means anything, but, you know, with previous locations that we've had mentioned throughout the first two episodes, they had this one appear differently. It's up to 2077. So that's like, what are we now? 2000? Where are we? 2021? 50 years? I don't know if I've got 50 years left in me, but you never know. We might be still around for this whenever
we'll be doing Loki season 4 in 2077.
Yeah, whenever it potentially happens. But what we start to get is an insight into Sylvie's plan. She was like, this plan was years in the making. Well, actually, maybe that is kind of a Freudian slip, because they have this kind of weirdly intimate scene.
Didn't like it.
You didn't like this? Because I was like, I started questioning, okay, so how does this work here? Because are they the same person? They're not. Are they the same? They're just different versions of the same person. But like, they got quite close. They got quite intimate as well. And if you didn't know that, like, oh, they're both versions of Loki or variants of Loki, you'd be like, hey, this is an interesting meet cute where they hate each other at the start and then they inevitably fall for each other as well. But no, this wasn't working for you. No.
And again, I kind of understood it, because it does, like, bleed into Loki's narcissism and love for himself. So it would make
exactly
a certain amount of sense that he would want to bone himself, or at least a version of himself. But the whole vibe, I was like, I know fundamentally they're not the same person, but in my mind when they were talking, I can't explain why, but it felt like they were brother and sister.
I know what you mean.
And then when the weird sexual tension arose, I was like, I don't like this at all. I hate this. So yeah, no, I didn't care for that at all. But I do enjoy that, like, at the start when they landed, they're like, run for your life. Oh my God, there's asteroids all over the place. There's nowhere safe. And then they have their little shot in the metal hut, and they're like, we need to recharge the teleporter thing. And they're like, okay, how do we do that? And she's like, oh, well, there's the escape pod, I guess. Or no, there's a town nearby, and we can use the power from there. And from that point on, they're just kind of strolling through a falling asteroid field. I was like, well, it seemed to be a problem a while ago, but now I guess you can just dodge them as they come down. And it's only as pressing a problem as the scene requires it to be.
Well, as we said, we needed to have a narrative dump, so the meteorites kindly held off for this period of time. Although I did enjoy how Loki did say to Sylvie, he was like, why can't you just enchant me now and you do the walking and then just wake me whenever we get there, which I appreciated, because I was like, that would probably be.
Also, I thought he could teleport. Is that a thing I made up?
So there's things where they seem to choose to use their powers at various points, and I'm wondering, do they have the same ability to use each other's powers and they just haven't learned how to do it yet?
Yeah.
And, you know, as they were growing up in this conversation that they have later in the episode, when they're both talking about they're getting nostalgic about their own childhoods, and he's saying, how did you learn how to do that, Madge? He's just, I just learned myself. So I felt like maybe there's a way that each of them can learn the abilities or the skills of the others as well, potentially. And then, sure, later on in the episode, Loki stops this massive falling, crashing tower from landing on top of them. And I was like, I didn't know he could do that. I know he like telekinetically grabbed a Hoover or something in the second episode, but I didn't know he could stop things like Jedi mind trick style as well, in that kind of way. But as you said, they're walking along. They need to recharge the temp pad. They come across this little shack initially where they're both just obviously testing out each other's. She wants to go in, kick the door down, get shot in the stomach. Fair enough. And he's like, you need a little bit more guile and class than that. And then obviously his way fails as well. Whenever he tries to disguise himself as wee Patrice. But this is where it's kind of constant, like we MacGuffins in this episode. Your one was like, you need to get to the Ark, the evacuation vessel, which then obviously is the next step of their journey, which started to feel pretty Snowpiercer, which is a nice kind of reference point to get, but except only the wealthy people are getting on here, not the poor people.
Yeah. So they both use their powers to kind of sneak on board the train. Did you notice the names of the two guards?
No. What were their names?
Hudson and Hicks.
Hudson and... no. Remind me.
That's two of the aliens. Like, it's Hudson and Hicks are two of the soldiers, the colonial marines from Aliens. And I was like, oh my God, he nodded towards Aliens. I'm losing my mind.
Well, for everybody, for a bit of context, Aliens is pretty much, it's like your favorite film.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually, in the end credits, I was like, did I mishear that? And I watched it. I was like, no, it's super Hudson and Hicks.
Oh, that's class. That's a nice wee reference point. All right.
Really appreciated that. So they got on, and Owen, tell me this.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me this. You need, say there's asteroids. I'm going to put you in a little hypothetical. Okay. Say there's asteroids falling from the sky. Mm-hmm. You've no idea where they're going to land.
Yeah.
At all. Anytime, any place. Who knows? What would you say is the least flexible form of transport to get from one point to another should suddenly an asteroid fall in your path?
It's a tough hypothetical situation that you put me in. But I'm going to go maybe a train on a fixed track that has nowhere else to go.
Nowhere else.
But again,
nowhere to go.
But maybe,
what are you thinking?
Again, we don't know who was responsible for the planning permission and naming of this particular location. But maybe their strength wasn't in naming places. Maybe their strength was in knowing the falling pattern of asteroids and meteorites, and they knew this train is not getting hit in any way whatsoever. I did like when they were getting on the train that they had to use a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, you combine their part, and obviously that's just the writers building up to the fact, like, hey, look what happens when you two start to work together, which obviously they used a lot in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well, where they're reluctant to actually work together. So then we get on to the Ark. And again, we get some nice little character insights. It's like, I can't sit backwards on trains. I know people like that who can do or can't do that on buses and trains as well. And then also start to talk about their past and interestingly talk about their mothers and how it seems that Sylvie found out from a young age that she was adopted. And obviously this hits Loki in a certain way because that was such a massive turning point in his life. And obviously made up a massive plot point in the first Thor film as well. And one of the reasons he didn't feel like he was fully part of Asgard or Odin's son, essentially. But some nice little details here. Again, Loki showing off his powers and creating fireworks in his hand, which was a nice effect. And you're like, yeah, well, how's that going to come in handy? Because then it just doesn't come in handy.
No, he does it by accident later when he's drunk, which is
yeah, exactly.
funny.
Although that is funny because he is drunk and not in total control of his powers.
As he thinks. I'm just full.
I'm just full. I'm just really, really full. I think we've all used that excuse. But it's interesting. There was a moment here, and it was actually during this conversation when they're sitting on the train that I had a little moment and I was like, uh-oh. Are you ready for Owen's big swing? Or can I jump in here with an Owen's big swing?
I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to swing big or otherwise. But
this
moment when they were talking, that I thought, oh God, this isn't happening. None of this is happening. This is all. We're back in the shack where that intimate moment where she went up and kind of put her hands on him and says it didn't work, that she wasn't able to enchant him, and he's like, "What do you think you're doing?" And then I just had I was like, wait, what if it did work? And she's in there for whatever reason. This is because his mind is stronger. She needs to have a way more elaborate scenario and everything as well. But then I was thinking, it's not really one of his memories that she's plucked out of his head as far as we know. Yeah. But no, that was just a moment in there. So I don't know if I'm swinging a miss or what the story is there anyway.
I mean, I think if the episode had ended differently, then yes.
Yeah.
It would definitely, like, again, because there is that constant, like, can I trust anything I'm seeing? Probably not. But I actually thought you were going to talk about his own personal revelation that the internet has immediately lost its mind over.
Well, this is a massive revelation because they're talking about love a lot in this conversation, talking about romance.
Clunky analogies.
There's some clunky ones in there. I think, what does he say? Love is hate, love is mischief. He comes back later with love is a dagger. She shoots him down.
An invisible dagger.
Yeah, what? Imaginary dagger. That's what it is, isn't it? But like but yeah, she has the funny line about she maintained like a serious relationship with a postman. Just to give it. And then I was thinking, do we know who that postman is? Is there anybody that fits that bill in the MCU?
Yeah, no, I did try to look up Marvel plus Postman, but there was just too many. It was too many options.
It might be just like a really hot postman that could have been in one of her apocalypses.
Remember, what was his name? Stan Lee. Remember he knocks up.
Oh, he was a delivery guy.
And he's like Tony Stank.
That's right.
Maybe she's dating that postman.
Maybe it's reincarnated Stanley. Yeah, that could work and get his cameo appearance in the Loki TV series. But yes, the other big revelation takeaway because of this conversation, Loki reveals something about himself.
He does, yeah. So after Sylvie kind of jokes about her postman boyfriend, she then asks him, like, as a prince, surely you must have had some princesses who were interested, or perhaps a prince yourself. And she does like waggy eyebrows just to get across, and he kind of does like a almost like a sultry smile for a second. He's like, both actually, just like you, I'm sure.
How about you? You're a prince. Must have been would-be princesses, or perhaps another prince.
A bit of both. I suspect the same as you, but nothing ever...
real.
Just like that, without any, fanfare or anything. It was just like Marvel have just made, canonically, Loki bisexual. The first major LGBTQI plus character in the MCU. In the middle of Pride Month as well. So well timed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a because there's been talk. I know Brian Tyree Henry's character in Eternals coming out in November is meant to have Marvel's first gay on-screen kiss, and there's talk that Tessa Thompson will be coming out as bisexual in Thor: Love and Thunder in 2022. But this kind of has beat them all to the punch, because I was thinking, even in the expanded MCU universe, has there been, like, you remember the way Star Wars dropped the ball with Rise of Skywalker, where it was like, we are going to have our first gay thing, you just wait, and then it was two ladies blurry in the background having like a smooch for half a second, something that could be just snatched out for any cut in China or wherever, anywhere in the world might get offended, and people are like, are you kidding me with this? So I know it's not actual like visual representation, like you don't see Loki smooching on anyone, but just the actual kind of outing is in itself a big deal, because it is the first major LGBTQIA plus character in the MCU. So congratulations, Marvel and Disney, you did it. It only took you since 2008.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it only took since 2008 plus 24 odd films and 3 TV series. But hey, listen, we got there. Because we were talking about that previously in the end credits of episode 1, where you do see in one of the files that Loki is gender fluid. And then obviously the speculation around that was like, oh, that's because they can maybe bring in Lady Loki as one of the variants, which obviously is the path that they have gone down, or a version of her anyway. But as you said, this was like, done without any, this is just a conversation between two people. And again, two people who are the same in many ways and different in other ways, and they still have to ask these questions and probing questions to find out about each other. But as you said, he just gives that little curled lip and just said, yeah, a bit of both, as I'm sure you did too. Like, so it's again, no, it fits perfectly for Loki, and it is about time that they've managed to do it and get it up on screen as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
Yeah.
If they do anything at all, or if they're like, okay, well, that's that done, and we
did
can
it.
move on to
That's
something
that
else.
box checked, guys. We did it.
Exactly. What we do get then following this scene is Sylvie conks out. She has a wee rest. Again, narrative-wise, is this just to give us time to get Loki drunk, essentially? Because you're like, are you guys not like against the clock here, and probably should just go and try and spend as much time trying to get your recharged temp pad as much as possible? But when she does wake up, we have Tom Hiddleston singing Asgardian folk tunes. Now, I don't speak or sing Asgardian, so I'm not 100% sure. I know, surprising what he was actually singing about, but it's good to see Tom Hiddleston getting a chance to show off his singing abilities, because he did play Hank Williams on the big screen as well. Like, so, yeah. So it's just like, oh, brilliant! Tom Hiddleston can do another thing amazingly. Fair play to you, good man.
No, I did. I put on the closed captions to see maybe if they would translate it from Asgardian to English. They did not.
Okay.
They also didn't have the closed captions on just when he was singing in English either.
Right.
So,
okay.
I'm sure, give it 15 minutes and some internet genius will have translated it, and it'll be all over Twitter, and it'll likely be on Spotify before the end of the day. It's the most listened to new song of the day or whatever. But so that was fun. I liked his little Thor throwback when he smashed the cup and he's like, another.
Yes,
that was great.
Another.
I do enjoy that when he was drunk. He forgot how to dress, I guess. So he disguised himself in his security gear.
Yes.
But then when he got drunk, he went back to his TVA variant costume.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that is. Like, is that just what he has on, actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, could he not
on.
just have turned that back into anything? Like his own Loki getup, or
I imagine he could have, because he can obviously transform into anybody or create that illusion that he is anybody. But I imagine he didn't, because he just, as you said, he was just drunk and he just forgot to maintain the illusion. So if he's not maintaining the illusion, he's going to be wearing whatever he is really wearing in real life, which, as we know, he went from the jumpsuit, or well, once they stripped off his Asgardian leather, hello internet, and put him in a jumpsuit, and then put him in the very cool jacket with the suit and tie, or the shirt and tie. I just think that's him. He's just let the mask slip, literally, where he's just like, yep, this is me. Again, if it's not, it does seem to be natural, as opposed to all a ploy as part of a bigger plan.
Yeah, and then he's trying to get Sylvie to taste some kind, it looks like a cake, and he's like, this goes really well with this booze. Who has the booze?
Figgy port. Where's my figgy port?
It was fine. And then he gets upset because he drops that drunkenly. And he almost looks like he's about to bend over to pick it up. He's like, it really would be a shame to let that go to waste. It's like, he's a man after my own heart. But yeah, so then the security on board are like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
I don't think you're rich people from Lamentis at all. I think you might be totally not those people. And show me your ticket. And then he's too drunk to fake a ticket. Instead, he does fireworks. So you have to kick everyone in the head. But then he also gets kind of shot or thrown out a window. I love the little like addition of the line of dialogue for it. So he's like, basically, she's like, "Oh no, he still has the teleporter thing. I better jump after him." It's like, yeah, we know.
We know. You don't have to remind us.
So she pops out the window as well, and then it's broken.
Well, this is the thing. So again, this was one of the points where I was questioning, is like, he's showing her a broken smoking temp pad. It's like, is he really showing her that, or what are we looking at here? Is this just going to disappear in a second? I did think it was interesting. Obviously, he was drunk in the previous scene, but he is way more reluctant to fight. As opposed to Sylvie, who's like, she immediately rips the crown off her head and starts stabbing people with it. And you're like, okay, two slightly different approaches to how they're going to get out of that situation. But yeah, they tumble out, and then obviously they have another walk to the next station where they make their plan that, they've never had us on this train before. So if they do, they have a fighting chance of getting off this planet before, or getting off this moon, or planet or moon before that planet or moon crashes into this one. And again, a couple more zingers as they're in their conversation where he's like, "I'm a god," and she's like, "You're a clown." And I did find that line particularly funny as well. So in terms of them going along, this was one of the other moments where I was thinking, oh, could this all still be an illusion, when she started to describe her actual, the way that she uses this power. And because he's so intrigued, he wants to know exactly how she does it. And she's talking about creating those fantasy worlds in their head. And I was like, oh yeah, the big swing is feeling pretty solid here at the moment. But then again, obviously there are other things to take away for it. But we eventually get this reveal in this conversation,
yes,
which feels like the big kind of holy shit moment of the episode.
Yes.
Whenever we find out, because obviously we had suspected that Sylvie was going to be the reveal. It was, but we get this reveal about the TVA during this conversation.
That young soldier from the TVA, her mind was messed up, everything clouded. I had to pull a memory from hundreds of years prior, before she even fought for them.
What? What did you say? Before she joined the TVA?
Yeah, she was just a regular person on Earth.
A regular person?
Loved margaritas.
I was told that everyone who works at the TVA was created by the Timekeepers.
That's ridiculous. They're all variants, just like us.
They don't know that.
Yes, it turns out Owen Wilson loves jet skis and has always loved jet skis for an actual reason, because it may be that he himself was a variant who, in his own timeline, just loved jet skis. He just loved them. And that's that. So it turns out maybe everyone in the TVA, up to a point now, was a variant. Now, we know, because Gugu and Mbatha-Raw told us in an interview, that Renslayer wasn't always a judge. She began as a hunter, like we see Sasha Lane's character and a few other characters.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking she has also been part of, like, she was snatched from being a variant and brainwashed into becoming part of the TVA. But I'd say everyone above her, who we haven't seen, is definitely part of this nefarious plan that is taking variants and turning them into TVA members, which is interesting because when Sylvie says she went into Sasha Lane's memory, she's like, I had to go hundreds of years back,
yes,
to when she was drinking margaritas, but that seemed like it was
very modern
now. Yeah. So, like the time travel stuff and the timeline stuff, it'll turn your head to spaghetti. Like it's like, how could it be 100 years ago if it seems to be very modern? So obviously she was snatched out of her time like a long, long time ago, and has existed outside of time for that amount. Oh no! You need to say something. I'm wrapping my own head in knots.
It gets messy when you start to break it down like that. But yeah, as you said, the key takeaway here is everybody is a variant, or everybody up to a certain point is a variant anyway. And again, kind of goes back to some of the other big swings that we were talking about in previous episodes about Owen Wilson, Mobius. Potentially, there's more than one Mobius as well. And you know, if there are variants there, then of course that makes sense, because obviously we're literally, the whole story is about tracking multiple versions of Tom Hiddleston's characters. We saw them whenever they used the little holographic display before they went on their field mission in the previous episode. So obviously that's going to have massive repercussions, you would imagine, in the final 3 episodes of the series. They make their way then, once they agree that like we're going to work together, we're going to use this plan, get on the Ark and try and get off this place before it's completely destroyed. And they end up in a place that looks kind of like, it was like reminded me of Madripoor. And that's one of the things about this episode. Like it obviously is a Madripoor, but it was just that same neon kind of vibe
and
to
also
it, like in the colours.
What was the city, like Jeff Goldblum's city from Ragnarok?
Oh, in what was his planet? Sakaar, I think it was called, something along those lines.
It had a similar vibe to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was all one, from a certain point, it was all one, well, meant to be one tracking shot through the action as well. So that was very well cinematographed.
Yeah, that's the word.
Thank you.
Well, you see, that was the thing, because director Kate Herron, who's responsible for this episode and the other episodes as well, it's a brilliant tracking shot as they're running around, getting from one place to the other. But it was only in the middle, and we've talked about this before, especially with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, with some of the storylines. It was like, but why? Okay, why are they running? They're running to get to the Ark, and the place is falling apart because the planet's about to crash into them. Okay, that's all fair enough. And then suddenly they're running through one place, and there's a team of guards trying to attack them. And I was like, well, why are these guards attacking them? Because there's loads of people trying to get over towards the Ark and shouting or whatever. But obviously, just for the sake of the story, it's like, no, these guys have this is just another obstacle for them. So I felt a little bit weak there. I was just like, there's no need for the guards to be chasing them when the guards are probably like, let whoever is coming onto the train, and then we're getting on the train as well, as opposed to like, we're going to get off the train and run after these guys and try and stop them over here. And then we get this insight into some more of Loki's powers, as we said, using his Jedi tricks to rescue themselves. And then this final brilliant shot of what appears to be, I presume, it's the Ark getting destroyed. Was it the train getting destroyed itself?
It's a rocket. It's a huge rocket that's meant to be shot up into space and get everyone off. Now, from my perspective, it looked like the rocket was being shot up straight into the planet that's about to crash into them. So that's its own problem. But yeah, we do see, just as they're about to get to it, a rogue asteroid hits it and blows it up. And the defeat and what's the kind of resignation in the two of them, just gig. Like we're in proper trouble now. And Loki's just left standing there staring, and Sylvie just kind of strolls off.
Yeah.
And it's such a great end to the episode. Now, we have seen stuff in the trailer where I had from behind in the trailer as well, it kind of looked like Black Widow's hair, but now we know it's Sylvie. And it's Sylvie and Loki are just sitting on what we now know is the planet's surface, and the asteroids are hitting all around them, and they're just watching it kind of calmly. So I'm guessing that they're just about, we'll see at the start of episode 4, that they'll be like, well, I guess we gave it a good run, didn't we? And they're sat there, and then all of a sudden Owen Wilson will open a little portal behind them and like, get off, I found you because I knew you were hiding in apocalypses. I had to go through so many apocalypses to find you guys. Get in here. And that will be how 4 will start. But it is such a great ending to this, because it's a proper cliffhanger. You're like, you screwed.
Yeah, that was it. I love the cliffhanger because, again, and I think you kind of hinted at it when we were chatting earlier, if this had been an illusion the entire time, I felt like we would have got the reveal at the end of this episode. That's when it would have felt like the most powerful moment for it to be revealed, because there's no point in waiting for a full week and then it was an illusion all out, and you're like, I've got no attachment to this. You've lost the momentum. Whereas this was the moment I was like, oh, I did a big swing and I did a big miss, I guess. So never again. That's the last time I'm trying that.
Big swings, they're not for everyone.
They're not for everybody. Listen, I begged off more than I could chew. So what happened here, this cliffhanger at the end, I loved it as well, because as you said, you get Loki looking up at the destruction in front of him, and all these things started popping into my head. It was right, of course, so this isn't Vormir as we had suspected before. That isn't Sylvie, that isn't Black Widow in the trailer. We think as well, because it obviously looks like even whenever Sylvie walks away in that final scene of this episode, you're like, oh, that looks like Black Widow again. Yeah, like straight away all the time. So yeah, overall this episode it definitely felt slower, as you said, a lot of conversation and character, but I thought it looked amazing. Like it looked spectacular in places as well. And I guess there has to be that element of, well, the two of them need to discover more about each other in order to progress the story along. But it did feel, as you said, like there was a Mobius-shaped hole here. We were about to get Renslayer kicking some ass. Oh, that's not happening. And then no missed minutes either. I think the last moment of missed minutes we got was whenever they first crashed onto Lamentis. They said, you're out of juice. And then that's it. So yeah, a definite shift in terms of everything that we've been focused on for these first episodes too far. So I don't know, definitely the most beautiful episode, but maybe the weakest of the 3. But it depends what you're into. Yeah,
no, I would agree. I think just because there's so many great supporting characters, then to have this whole episode rely just on the two of them, and as I said, spending too much time with people who are too similar can get a bit grating. But yeah, the action scenes were good, and the revelations were good, and lots of talking points, and really does set up, and it explains a lot, and it's a necessary evil if you're going to have a show this complicated where you're going to have to just kind of stop and explain stuff. So I understand why, and I think off the back of this stuff going forward and stuff we've already seen will prove to be more interesting. But you know, learning isn't always fun.
You're like, I did all my learning in school and Pat, I don't want to watch TV now. Just to clarify completely, because that thing about Lamentis is wrecking my head, because I couldn't remember whether it was a moon or a planet, and was it a planet coming on the moon. So the line that they actually used, because they said she says, oh no, why have you brought us here? This is the worst apocalypse of all. They said the moon, that planet is about to crash into and destroy. So they're on Lamentis the moon. That's what it is.
Also, I find it difficult to believe that that's the worst apocalypse of all.
You can think of some other more horrific ones.
Yeah, like that's. I mean,
they seem pretty chilled.
It's just a moon, so shit, like,
I think it wrecks the entire place.
From like history that Thanos has killed more people than that?
It actually, now that you mentioned Thanos, there was a moment that reminded me of is it Infinity War, whenever he's fighting the Avengers just before he does the snap, and he pulls, as you said, like pulls a moon and crushes it into whatever number of pieces, brings it down onto Titan as well. So there were little callbacks to that as well. But I think that's pretty much everything from episode 3 of Loki, Lamentis. Were there any other bits that stood out? I think we've covered everything there.
No, I think. Let me just check my notes.
The precious notes. Get the precious notes. I had to look through I had to look through the foreign language dubbing section as well, just to see were there any misnamed characters in there. But it appeared that everybody was named correctly.
There's a lot fewer characters in this episode as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
No, I think that's it. I think this was the breather before they get back into the fray next week. I'd read somewhere, that's not gone from my head, but he said that everything gets turned on its head in the 4th episode. So
right, okay.
I mean, bring it on.
Brilliant, 100%. As you said, we're definitely going to see Owen Wilson back in it. We're definitely going to see Miss Minutes back in there. Good news, Bathu Raw as well.
That was something someone pointed out to me. If you go onto the IMDb page, it says, like Tom Hiddleston, Loki, 6 episodes, blah 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 blah, and it says Owen Wilson, Mobius, 6 episodes. Which is either a lie or he was somewhere in this and we didn't see him.
Interesting. I'll go back and have a look, because I rewatched the first 2 episodes again, and before watching episode 3 here, and I was thinking another one of the big swings that we were talking about previously, that moment whenever Loki is watching his own death at the hands of Thanos, which he obviously hasn't experienced yet, but we have from watching the other MCU films. And just whatever way they play that scene and whatever way Tom Hiddleston acts as well, I was like, oh, that's a moment for him where he feels inspired to go back and do that thing that we said, where he will assist the Avengers unknowingly or unbeknownst to them throughout different times in history. But then whenever this episode popped, I was like, oh no, that's probably rubbish as well. They're going down a completely different path here. And then I was just saying, shut up, Owen. Stop coming up with stupid stuff. But listen, it's fun. I don't care.
Listen, swing away.
Swing away. What's that? That's Signs, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Whenever. Swing away, Joaquin Phoenix. Well, listen, Rory, thanks a million for all of that. Another only 6 more sleeps to go until the next episode of Loki.
Oh, you think we'll be sleeping before then? I'm up every night making notes, rewatching everything.
You're so committed to the cause.
No.
But thank you for all of that. Thank you to Sound Paul on sound. Hopefully he's caught up with Loki at this point as well. And as ever, thank you to everybody for listening and subscribing to the show. Thank you. Hello to all our new subscribers as well. And I was thinking about it. Now that we know that, what does it? Sylvie describes the TVA as omniscient fascists at one point during the episode. So forget the TVA. Stick with TBR. We'll look after you. Right, I actually got a bottle of Figgy Port if you want to come and get drunk with me, and we'll sing Asgardian folk songs if you're up for it.
Only if you've got that little cake thing that he had too, because they pair real nice.
A fridge full of it. Let's
perfect.
Do it. Okay, right. See ya.
Bye.